He had been dead for 400 years, until she made him want to live again. When Dr. Elara Thorne discovered the truth about her mysterious patron, she faced an impossible choice: flee from the monster in the shadows, or stay and risk everything for a love that could damn them both to eternal darkness. Subscribe now. This story will consume you. Fog rolled through Ravenshallow's empty streets as candlelight flickered in the mansion on the cliff, where ancient eyes watched the harbor below, waiting for her arrival. The letter had arrived 3 weeks ago, sealed with black wax and bearing a crest Elara had never seen before, a raven clutching a thornless rose. The offer was extraordinary: unlimited funding, a fully equipped private laboratory, and access to medical records spanning centuries, all to research a blood disorder that had plagued the remote coastal town of Ravenshallow for generations. Dr. Elara Thorne read the letter for the 100th time as the train carried her through increasingly desolate countryside. Mist clung to everything here, transforming familiar landscapes into something otherworldly. The further north she traveled, the more the modern world seemed to fall away, replaced by forests that pressed close to the tracks and villages that looked untouched by time. She was a scientist, trained to trust evidence and logic. At 32, she'd built a reputation as one of London's most promising hematologists, specializing in rare blood diseases that baffled her colleagues. But she'd also learned that breakthroughs required risks, and the mysterious Mr. Lucien Ashford was offering her the opportunity of a lifetime. The conductor's voice startled her from her thoughts. "Ravenshallow Station, miss." End of the line. Elara gathered her belongings and stepped onto the platform. The station was little more than a covered wooden structure, empty except for a single attendant who regarded her with undisguised curiosity. Beyond the station, she could see the town itself, a tumble of stone buildings descending toward a harbor shrouded in fog so thick she could barely make out the masts of fishing boats. "Dr. Thorne," a voice came from behind her. She turned to find an elderly woman in a severe black dress, her silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. Despite her age, the woman's dark eyes were sharp and assessing. "I'm Mrs. Grimshaw, housekeeper at Ashford Manor. Mr. Ashford sent me to collect you." The woman's tone was formal, almost cold. "The carriage is this way." The carriage was as anachronistic as everything else in Ravenshallow, a polished black vehicle that belonged in a museum, pulled by 2 midnight dark horses. Mrs. Grimshaw said nothing as they traveled through the town's narrow streets, past houses with windows that seemed to watch their passage, past a church with a cemetery so overgrown it looked abandoned. Then they began to climb. The road wound up the cliff face, leaving the town behind. Elara caught glimpses of the ocean far below, waves crashing against rocks in a perpetual rhythm that felt almost hypnotic. Ashford Manor emerged from the mist, like something from a Gothic novel. The mansion was built of dark stone, its architecture a blend of different eras, medieval towers merged with Victorian additions, all of it wrapped in ivy and shadow. Lights flickered in some windows, but many remained dark, giving the structure an oddly hollow appearance. "Mr. Ashford keeps unusual hours," Mrs. Grimshaw said, as she helped Elara from the carriage. "He'll meet with you this evening. I'll show you to your rooms." Inside, the manor was a labyrinth of corridors lined with portraits whose subjects seemed to follow Elara with their painted eyes. The furnishings were exquisite, but outdated. Heavy curtains, ornate furniture, candelabras instead of electric lights. It was beautiful and unsettling in equal measure. Her suite was in the east wing, 3 rooms that faced the ocean. The bedroom alone was larger than her entire London flat, dominated by a 4-poster bed draped in deep burgundy velvet. A fire had been lit in the marble fireplace, but the room still felt cold. "Dinner will be served at 8, Mrs. Grimshaw said. "Mr. Ashford will join you then." She paused at the door, her expression softening slightly. "A word of advice, Doctor. Mr. Ashford is particular. He values directness and dislikes questions about his personal affairs. Focus on your work, and your time here will be productive." The housekeeper left before Elara could respond. She stood in the center of the opulent room, fighting the urge to laugh at the absurdity of it all. What had she gotten herself into? She spent the afternoon exploring her suite and examining the view from her windows. The ocean stretched endlessly below, gray and turbulent. She could see the town in the distance, looking small and insignificant against the vast landscape. No other buildings were visible nearby. The manor stood in complete isolation. At precisely 8 o'clock, a knock sounded at her door. A young servant girl, who couldn't have been more than 16, stood in the corridor. "Mr. Ashford is waiting in the dining room, Miss." Elara followed the girl through a maze of corridors, down a grand staircase, and into a dining room that could have seated 30 people. Only 2 places had been set, at opposite ends of an enormous table. Candles provided the only light, their flames casting dancing shadows on walls lined with more portraits. "Dr. Thorne, welcome to Ashford Manor." The voice came from the shadows near the fireplace, deep and smooth, with an accent she couldn't quite place. British, certainly, but with something older underneath. He stepped into the candlelight, and Elara forgot how to breathe. Lucien Ashford was beautiful. There was no other word for it. He appeared to be in his mid-30s, tall and lean, dressed in an impeccably tailored black suit that seemed more appropriate for the 19th century than 1924. His hair was dark, almost black, falling just past his collar. But it was his face that held her captive. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, full lips that curved in the slightest smile. And his eyes, they were the color of amber, shot through with flecks of gold that seemed to glow in the firelight. "I trust your journey was comfortable." He moved toward her with fluid grace, each step utterly silent on the wooden floor. "Yes, thank you." Elara forced herself to maintain professional composure, extending her hand. "I'm grateful for this opportunity, Mr. Ashford." His hand closed around hers, and she gasped. His skin was ice cold, like touching marble. He released her immediately, that slight smile never wavering. "Please, sit. I've been looking forward to meeting you for some time." He gestured to the nearer chair, abandoning the formal table arrangement. As Elara sat, servants emerged from the shadows to serve dinner. The food was exquisite. Roasted pheasant, fresh vegetables, wine that probably cost more than her monthly salary. She noticed that Lucien's plate remained untouched, though he held a glass of wine, occasionally bringing it to his lips but never actually drinking. "Your research on hereditary blood disorders is remarkable," Lucien said, his amber eyes fixed on her with unsettling intensity. "Particularly your work on photosensitivity conditions. You've read my papers." Elara was surprised. Her work was highly specialized, published in obscure medical journals. All of them. "Your theory about genetic mutations affecting blood composition is fascinating." He leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, Dr. Thorne, what drew you to study diseases of the blood?" His interest seemed genuine, and Elara found herself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. They talked for over an hour about her research, her theories, her frustrations with the medical establishment's resistance to new ideas. Lucien asked intelligent questions, demonstrated deep knowledge of both historical and cutting-edge medicine, and seemed to hang on her every word. But she noticed things. Small things that her scientific mind catalogued despite the distraction of his presence. He never ate. Not a single bite. His skin remained that same marble-cold pallor, never flushing with the warmth of the fire or wine. He sat perfectly still between movements, with a stillness no living person could maintain. And his eyes, those beautiful, terrible eyes, occasionally reflected the candlelight like an animal's. "Tomorrow, I'll show you the laboratory," Lucien said, as servants cleared the plates. "It's beneath the manor, in the oldest part of the structure. You'll find it equipped with everything you requested, and more. The medical records are extensive. Births, deaths, symptoms, everything documented for the past 400 years. 400 years? Elara couldn't hide her astonishment. The Ashford family has kept records that long. Something flickered across his face. Pain, perhaps, or memory. My family has always understood the value of preserving knowledge. We've learned, Dr. Thorne, that some mysteries require centuries to solve. He stood, and she realized their dinner was over. I apologize, but I must attend to other matters. Mrs. Grimshaw will show you to the laboratory tomorrow morning. Feel free to explore the manor, though I'd ask that you avoid the west wing. Those rooms are unsafe. Structural damage. Lucien crossed to her chair and extended his hand to help her rise. This time, she was prepared for the cold, but it still sent a shiver through her. He held her hand a moment longer than necessary, his thumb brushing across her knuckles in a gesture that felt almost like a caress. I have a confession, Dr. Thorne. His voice dropped lower, intimate. And I didn't bring you here solely for your scientific expertise. Your papers revealed something I've rarely encountered. A mind that questions everything, that refuses to accept the world as it appears. That kind of vision is intoxicating. He released her hand and stepped back into the shadows. Sleep well. Tomorrow, your real work begins. Elara stood alone in the dining room, her hand still tingling from his touch, her mind racing. She should have felt afraid. Everything about this situation screamed danger. The isolated mansion, the eccentric benefactor, the strange household, the impossible cold of his skin. But what she felt instead was exhilaration. Whatever mysteries Ravenshallow held, whatever secrets Lucien Ashford was hiding, she was going to uncover them. She didn't notice, as she left the dining room, that none of the portraits on the walls bore her reflection as she passed. Nor did she see the figure that watched her from the window of the forbidden west wing, amber eyes following her progress across the courtyard, an expression of longing and despair on a face that had not aged in 400 years. In her room, Elara couldn't sleep. She stood at the window, looking out at the ocean, replaying every moment of the evening. Lucien's cold touch, his untouched food, his impossible stillness, his eyes that glowed like fire. A scientist to her core, she began to list the symptoms she'd observed. Photosensitivity implied by his nocturnal habits, extreme coldness of extremities, absence of normal eating behaviors, unusual ocular reflection. There had to be a logical explanation, some rare medical condition that explained everything. Tomorrow, she'd examine those 400-year-old records, and she'd find answers. What Elara didn't know, as she finally drifted into uneasy sleep, was that the answers she sought would shatter everything she believed about the world, about death, and about the impossibility of loving something that shouldn't exist. In his private chambers in the West Wing, Lucien Ashford stood before a mirror that showed nothing but an empty room. He pressed one pale hand against the glass, feeling the weight of 4 centuries of loneliness pressing down on him like a physical force. "Forgive me, Elara," he whispered to the darkness. "Forgive me for what I'm about to do to your life." Because he'd lied to her. He hadn't brought her here to cure the town. He'd brought her here to cure himself, and the price of that cure might destroy them both. The laboratory exceeded every expectation Elara had dared to imagine. Mrs. Grimshaw led her down 3 flights of stone stairs the next morning, past sections of the manor that grew progressively older, the architecture transforming from Victorian elegance to medieval fortress. The air grew colder with each descent, carrying the scent of ancient stone and something else. Something metallic that Elara's trained nose recognized instantly as old blood. "And this section dates back to the original castle," Mrs. Grimshaw explained, her voice echoing off the walls. "The Ashfords have occupied this land since the 13th century. What lies below is even older. The laboratory occupied what must have once been a dungeon. But where Elara expected darkness and decay, she found a marvel of modern science. Electric lights, a rarity even in London, illuminated rows of glass cabinets filled with pristine equipment. Microscopes, centrifuges, spectrometers, instruments she'd only read about in journals. One entire wall was lined with refrigeration units, their motors humming softly. "My God," Elara breathed, moving through the space with wonder. "This is extraordinary." "Mr. Ashford spared no expense." Mrs. Grimshaw gestured to a massive wooden door at the far end. "The archives are through there. 400 years of medical records, all indexed and preserved. He'll join you this evening to discuss your findings." "This evening? Not this morning?" The housekeeper's expression remained neutral. "Mr. Ashford keeps to his chambers during daylight hours. A medical sensitivity to sunlight. Surely you, as a doctor, understand such conditions exist." After Mrs. Grimshaw departed, Elara spent an hour simply cataloging the equipment, her excitement building with each discovery. She had everything needed to pursue research that would take decades in a conventional setting. Whatever Lucien Ashford's eccentricities, his commitment to scientific advancement was absolute. Finally, she approached the archives. The room beyond the wooden door was vast, its walls lined with shelves that stretched up into shadows the electric lights couldn't quite penetrate. Leather-bound volumes filled every available space, each spine marked with dates in fading gold leaf. The oldest were nearly illegible, the newest crisp and clear. Elara selected a volume at random from the 16th century. Inside, written in elaborate script, were meticulous records: births, deaths, marriages, illnesses. But what caught her attention were the recurring notations about a wasting sickness. Patients who grew pale, weak, complained of sensitivity to light, and eventually died despite all treatments. She pulled more volumes, jumping through centuries. The pattern repeated. The symptoms varied slightly, but the core remained consistent: photosensitivity, progressive anemia, eventual death. And noted beside many entries, in different hands across the centuries, was a single recurring name: Ashford. Not an Ashford, or the Ashford heir, just Ashford, as if one person had made these notes across 400 years. Impossible. Elara's hands trembled as she pulled the most recent volume, dated 1924. Her breath caught. The handwriting was the same, exactly the same as the entries from 1524. Same slant, same flourishes, same peculiar way of forming the letter R. She set the book down and walked to a cabinet she'd noticed earlier, one that didn't contain equipment but was locked. Testing the handle confirmed it, but the lock was old, simple. Elara retrieved a letter opener from the desk and, feeling only slightly guilty, picked the lock. Inside were personal journals, dozens of them. She pulled the oldest, her heart pounding. July 1524. The 23rd year of my curse. I no longer remember the warmth of sunlight on my face. I no longer remember what it felt like to taste food, to feel hunger for anything but. I will not write it. Perhaps if I do not name it, it will cease to be real. The handwriting matched the medical records. Elara's scientific mind rebelled against the obvious conclusion. There had to be another explanation, a family tradition of copying the founder's handwriting. Multiple people named Lucien across generations. Anything but the impossible truth that was forming in her thoughts. She pulled another journal, this one from 1702. I tried again today. Walked into the dawn, determined to end this existence. I lasted perhaps 30 seconds before the pain became unbearable. My skin began to smoke, to blacken. I retreated to the shadows and watched my flesh heal, smooth and pale and dead as ever. Even the sun rejects me. Even death refuses my company. Her hands shook as she reached for the newest journal. The leather was still supple, the pages crisp. The last entry was dated 3 weeks ago. I have found her, Dr. Elara Thorne, brilliant and beautiful and so wonderfully, perfectly mortal. Her research suggests she might actually achieve what 4 centuries of my own efforts have failed to accomplish. But bringing her here is selfish beyond measure. If she discovers what I am, she will flee. If she stays, I will destroy her, either through my nature or through the desperate hope that she represents. I am damned either way. But I cannot stop myself. 400 years of isolation have made me weak. I need her light, even if it burns me to ash. The journal slipped from Elara's fingers and hit the stone floor with a sound like a gunshot. I see you've been exploring. Elara spun around. Lucien stood in the doorway, though she hadn't heard the door open, hadn't heard any footsteps. He wore another dark suit, his amber eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her throat go dry. The cabinet was locked, he observed mildly. I'm impressed by your resourcefulness, Dr. Thorne, though perhaps I should have anticipated that a mind capable of your research wouldn't be deterred by something as simple as a lock. These journals... Elara's voice came out as a whisper. They're all written by you, across 400 years. Yes, just that, yes. No explanation, no denial. Elara's scientific training warred with the evidence before her. That's impossible. People don't live for 400 years. They age. They die. People do. Lucien interrupted softly. He moved into the room with that same fluid, silent grace. I don't. Not anymore. He crossed to where she stood, slow enough that she could have moved away. She didn't. Couldn't. She was trapped between terror and fascination, her mind screaming that she should run while her feet remained rooted to the stone floor. What are you? The question came out barely audible. Lucien stopped a few feet away, his expression unreadable. What do you think I am, Dr. Thorne? You're a scientist. You've observed the evidence. What does your brilliant mind tell you? It tells me that you're impossible. Yet here I stand. He raised one pale hand, examining it as if seeing it for the first time. I don't breathe, though I can force air through my lungs to speak. My heart hasn't beaten since 1501. I cast no reflection, no shadow under certain lights. I cannot bear the touch of sunlight. It burns me as surely as fire. And I sustain myself on... He paused, his jaw tightening. On the blood of the living. The word hung between them like a physical thing. Vampire. Elara's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the stone floor, her back against the cabinet, staring up at him. Every rational part of her mind rejected it. Vampires were folklore, superstition, Gothic romance for bored aristocrats. They weren't real, but the evidence was overwhelming. The cold skin, the untouched food, the nocturnal existence, the impossible age, the medical records tracking a blood disease that had plagued Ravenshallow for centuries, because he had been here for centuries, feeding on the population in carefully measured amounts. Enough to survive, but not enough to kill. You're going to kill me now, she stated, surprised by how calm her voice sounded. Now that I know. Lucien's expression twisted into something like pain. No. God. No. Elara. He used her first name without thinking, and something in the intimacy of it made her breath catch. I brought you here because you're the first person in 400 years who might be able to help me. I want to be mortal again. I need to be mortal again. This existence is a curse worse than death. He sank down onto the floor across from her, abandoning all pretense of aristocratic dignity. This close, she could see the faint lines around his eyes, marks of an age he could never truly reach. Could see the way his hands trembled slightly, as if holding back some terrible need. The disease that afflicts Ravenshallow isn't a disease, he continued, his voice rough. It's me. 400 years of taking just enough to survive, spreading it across enough victims that no one dies but everyone suffers. I've tried to stop. God knows I've tried. But the hunger... He closed his eyes. The hunger is endless. Why? Elara asked. Why become this in the first place? I didn't choose it. I was made against my will by a creature far older than I am, turned as punishment for refusing her advances. She left me here, alone, to suffer through the centuries. And suffer I have, Dr. Thorne, every single day." He opened his eyes, and she saw genuine anguish there. "Your research on genetic blood disorders, on photosensitivity, on the cellular structure of hemoglobin, it's closer to understanding vampirism than anyone has ever come. You approach it as a medical condition, not a supernatural curse. That's what I need. A cure. A way to reverse this and become human again." Elara's mind was racing, already cataloging symptoms and forming hypotheses despite her shock. The blood dependency. It's like an extreme form of anemia. Your body can't produce what it needs, so you must take it from others. The photosensitivity suggests a cellular breakdown when exposed to UV light. The longevity could be explained by accelerated healing, cellular regeneration that prevents aging. Yes. Lucien leaned forward, hope blazing in his amber eyes. Yes, exactly. You see it. You understand. This isn't magic or supernatural evil. It's a medical condition so rare and so extreme that it's been misunderstood for millennia. But if it's medical, it can be cured. "Using my blood," Elara said, the pieces falling into place. "The research you requested about blood compatibility, cellular regeneration. You think my blood might hold something yours needs. I don't just think it, I know it." He pulled a photograph from his jacket, hands it to her. "This is from the records. A woman named Catherine Thorne, documented in 1678. She lived in Ravenshallow for 3 years, and during that time, the wasting sickness almost disappeared. I barely needed to feed. Her presence somehow satisfied something in me." Elara stared at the faded photograph. The woman could have been her twin. Same dark hair, same delicate features, same intelligent eyes. "And she was your ancestor," Lucien continued. "When I discovered your research, I had your genealogy traced. You're directly descended from Catherine Thorne. Whatever was in her blood that called to me, that temporarily quelled the hunger, it's in you too. I can feel it. That's why you brought me here, not just for my research skills. I brought you here for both. I need your mind to understand what I am, and I need your blood to cure it." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and took her hand. His skin was ice against hers, but his grip was gentle. "I know how this sounds. I know I'm asking the impossible, but Elara, I'm begging you. Help me become human again. Help me die as I was meant to die 400 years ago." She should have been terrified, should have torn her hand from his and run from this place, from this impossible creature who fed on human blood and defied every law of nature. But as she looked into his eyes, she saw something that her scientific mind couldn't categorize or explain. Genuine suffering, genuine hope. And she saw something else. Something she definitely shouldn't feel but couldn't deny. Attraction. Not despite what he was, but perhaps because of it. Because he had survived 4 centuries of loneliness and still had the capacity to hope. Because he had the power to kill her but chose instead to ask for her help. Because his touch, cold as death, still managed to make her feel more alive than she'd felt in years. "I'll help you," she heard herself say. "But I need time. I need to study you, to understand the physiology. I'll need blood samples, tissue samples. I'll need to observe your limitations and abilities. This will require extensive research. Take all the time you need." Lucien's relief was palpable. "Stay here, in the manor. Use the laboratory. I'll submit to any test you require. I'll answer any question. I'll hide nothing from you. Even if I discover you're beyond saving. Even if vampirism is irreversible." His hand tightened on hers. "Even then. Because for the first time in 400 years, I'll have someone who knows what I am and doesn't look at me with fear or hatred. That alone is worth the risk of hope." Elara stood, and he rose with her in a single fluid movement. They stood close enough that she could see the faint shimmer of his skin, like light on water. Close enough to realize that despite his lack of breath, despite his impossible coldness, she wanted to close that final distance between them. "There are rules," she said, forcing professionalism into her voice. "If we're going to work together, there have to be boundaries. You don't feed on me. You don't use whatever supernatural powers you have to influence my thoughts or decisions. And you're honest with me, always. No more locked cabinets or hidden journals." Agreed. He smiled then, a real smile that transformed his severe features into something breathtaking. "You're not afraid of me. I'm terrified of you," Elara corrected. "But I'm more curious than afraid. And I've never walked away from a mystery just because it was dangerous." "Then we're well matched, Dr. Thorne. I've never met anyone who fascinated me as much as you do. And I've had 4 centuries to meet a great many people." He released her hand and stepped back, putting professional distance between them. But the air still crackled with something electric, something neither of them could name. "I'll leave you to your research," Lucien said. "Mrs. Grimshaw will bring meals. If you need anything, pull the cord by the desk. Servants are always nearby. And Elara..." He paused at the door. "Thank you for not running, for giving me a chance at redemption." He was gone before she could respond, the door closing silently behind him. Elara stood alone in the archive room, surrounded by 400 years of documentation about a creature that shouldn't exist, who wanted nothing more than to stop existing in his current form. Her hands shook as she picked up his journal from where she'd dropped it. She should leave, should pack her things and take the first train back to London, back to reality, back to a world where vampires were fiction and the greatest danger was a contaminated blood sample. But she wouldn't. Because Lucien Ashford, vampire or not, had given her the greatest mystery of her career, and because when he'd held her hand, when he'd looked at her with those impossible amber eyes, she'd felt something she'd never expected to feel. A connection, a pull, a sense that perhaps she'd been brought to Ravenshallow not just to cure him, but to cure something broken in herself. A loneliness she'd hidden behind scientific pursuit, a hunger for meaning deeper than research and publications. If she was going to help him become human, she needed to understand every aspect of his condition, which meant spending time with him, talking with him, learning his history, his nature, the mechanics of his impossible existence. It would be dangerous, not just because of what he was, but because of what she was beginning to feel. Elara pulled a fresh notebook from the supplies and opened it to the first page. At the top, in her precise handwriting, she wrote, "Subject, Lucien Ashford. Condition, vampirism. Objective, cure." But beneath that, in smaller letters that she almost didn't admit writing, she added, "Secondary objective. Understand why my heart races when he's near." In his chambers above, Lucien stood at his window, looking out at the daylight he couldn't touch. He pressed one hand against the glass, feeling the warmth on the other side that would destroy him. Elara Thorne was still in the laboratory, still hadn't fled. She'd agreed to help him, despite knowing what he was, despite every reason she had to run. For the first time in 400 years, Lucien Ashford allowed himself to hope. And hope, he was discovering, was the most dangerous thing of all. Because if Elara could cure him, he might finally know peace. And if she couldn't, he wasn't sure he could survive losing her after finally finding someone who could look at him and see not a monster, but a man. The days blurred into nights, and nights into days, though Elara saw little of the sun. She fell into Lucien's nocturnal rhythm without conscious decision, sleeping through daylight hours and working in the laboratory from dusk until dawn. It had been 2 weeks since she'd learned the truth. 2 weeks of the most extraordinary research of her career. 2 weeks of dancing closer and closer to a danger that had nothing to do with science and everything to do with the way her heart stuttered whenever Lucien entered the room. Tonight, she was preparing to take her first blood sample from him. The laboratory was warm from the fire burning in the hearth. Lucien had insisted on it, saying he hated how cold his presence made everything. Elara had set up her equipment with meticulous care. Sterile needles, collection vials, her best microscope already prepared with slides. "I won't lie and say I'm not nervous," Lucien admitted as he rolled up his sleeve. He sat on the examination table, looking far too aristocratic for the clinical setting. 400 years, and the sight of medical instruments still unsettles me. "When was the last time you were treated by a physician?" Elara asked, swabbing his arm with alcohol. His skin was so pale the veins showed through like rivers of shadow. 1501. The night I died. His voice was quiet. I was wounded in a duel. Foolish, young, arrogant. The woman who turned me found me bleeding in an alley. She said she could save me. I believed her. Elara positioned the needle. "This might hurt." "I'm familiar with pain, Dr. Thorne." She inserted the needle, expecting resistance, but it slid in smoothly. What emerged was not the bright red of human blood, but something darker, almost black, with an odd viscosity that fascinated her scientific mind even as it made her stomach turn. "My God," she breathed, watching it fill the vial. "It's completely transformed. The cellular structure must be monstrous," Lucien supplied softly. "Extraordinary," she corrected, meeting his eyes. "Lucien, this isn't the blood of a dead thing. It's alive, just different. The cells are regenerating even as I watch them. Look." She held up the vial to the light. The blood seemed to move within the glass, pulsing with its own rhythm. Lucien leaned closer to look, and suddenly they were inches apart, his cold breath ghosting across her cheek. "Your heart is racing," he murmured. "I can hear it, like thunder in your chest." Elara's hand trembled, making the vial shake. That's a normal physiological response to scientific excitement." "Is that what this is?" Lucien's amber eyes held hers. Scientific excitement? She couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel the dangerous pull between them, the magnetic force that had been building for 2 weeks of late-night conversations and shared discoveries. Lucien pulled back abruptly, turning away from her. "Forgive me. That was inappropriate." "No, Elara set the vial down with shaking hands. "I'm the one who should apologize. I'm supposed to be maintaining professional distance." "Professional distance?" Lucien laughed, a bitter sound. "You're studying a vampire, Elara. I think we abandoned professional distance the moment you agreed to stay." He stood and moved to the window, the barred window that kept sunlight out during the day. His reflection was absent in the glass, just as she'd noted in every mirror in the manor. It disturbed her, that absence, made him seem less real, more phantom. "Tell me about her," Elara said, needing to break the tension. "Catherine Thorne. What was she like?" Lucien was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of centuries. "She was fire and light in human form, a widow who came to Ravenshallow to escape London society's judgment. She was brilliant, ahead of her time. She'd educated herself in medicine, philosophy, languages. We met in the town market. She was arguing with a merchant about the price of books, citing economic theory to prove he was price gouging." He smiled at the memory. "I was captivated immediately." "Did you tell her what you were?" "Never. I was too coward then. I thought I could simply be near her, draw strength from her presence without her ever knowing the truth." His voice roughened. "We became friends. She would visit the manor, and we would talk for hours, about everything and nothing. She made me feel almost human again." "What happened to her?" "She fell in love with someone else, a sailor from town, a good man, mortal safe, everything I could never be." Lucien pressed his hand against the glass. "I was happy for her. Devastated, but happy. She deserved a real life, not whatever half-existence I could offer. She married, moved away, and the hunger came back worse than ever. I realized then that her presence had been keeping me stable. When she left, I nearly went mad. Elara moved closer, drawn by the raw pain in his voice. Is that why you've never married? In 400 years, there was no one else. There were others I cared for, but none I loved. None I could risk telling the truth. He turned to face her, and the naked longing in his expression stole her breath. Until now. Lucien. His name was a warning and a plea. I know this is impossible. You're here to cure me, not to... He stopped, jaw clenching. But I need you to understand something, Elara. Every moment we spend together, every conversation, every accidental touch, it's torture. Because you smell like sunlight and life and everything I can never have. And being near you satisfies the hunger in a way blood never has. But it also creates a different hunger, something far more dangerous. I feel it too, she whispered, the admission escaping before she could stop it. This pull between us. I try to ignore it, to focus on the research, but don't. He crossed the space between them in an instant, moving with that supernatural speed that should have frightened her. His hands came up to frame her face, not touching, hovering just at the edge of contact. Don't feel it. Don't let yourself care for me. Because I'm a dead thing, Elara. I'm cold and hungry and dangerous. And if I let myself love you, if I let this become more than what it is, I will destroy you. You won't, she breathed. I will. His voice broke. The hunger is always there, always clawing at my control. Right now, standing this close to you, I can hear your pulse, smell your blood. Part of me wants to tear into your throat and drink until there's nothing left. That's what I am, Elara. That's the monster you're trying to cure. She should have been terrified, should have pulled away, run from the laboratory, fled the manor and never looked back. Instead, she reached up and placed her hands over his, bringing them down to actually touch her face. His skin was ice cold, but his touch was infinitely gentle. He inhaled sharply, his whole body going rigid. You're not going to hurt me, Elara said with certainty she didn't fully understand. I trust you, Lucien. You shouldn't. But I do. For a long moment, they stood frozen in that tableau. Then, slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away, Lucien leaned forward. His forehead touched hers, and Elara felt him tremble with the effort of restraint. This is madness, he whispered against her skin. 400 years of discipline, and you shatter it in 2 weeks. Then maybe discipline isn't what you need. She tilted her head up, closing the distance between them until their lips were a breath apart. This close, she could see the inhuman nature of him, the two perfect features, the amber eyes with their predatory gleam, the subtle wrongness that marked him as other, and she didn't care. Lucien made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between a groan and a growl. His hand slid into her hair, gentle despite his obvious struggle for control. Elara, if we do this, if I kiss you... His voice was ragged. I don't know if I can stop. I don't know if the hunger will... Then don't stop, she interrupted, reckless and sure. Don't stop until we find out. That broke his restraint. His lips crashed against hers with desperate hunger, and Elara gasped at the shock of it. He was cold, so cold. But the kiss itself burned. His mouth moved against hers with 4 centuries of loneliness behind it, drinking her in like a man dying of thirst. Elara's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. She'd been kissed before, but never like this. Never with such consuming intensity, such perfect desperation. Lucien kissed her like she was salvation and damnation combined, like he was memorizing the taste of her, like he knew this might be the only chance he'd ever have. His arms wrapped around her waist, lifting her effortlessly onto the examination table. He stepped between her legs, never breaking the kiss, one hand cradling her head while the other spanned her waist. Then she felt it, the sharp scrape of fangs against her lower lip. Lucien jerked back with a choked sound, stumbling away from her so fast he slammed into the wall across the laboratory. His hand came up to cover his mouth, his eyes wide with horror. "No, no, God, no." His voice was muffled behind his hand. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean..." Elara touched her lip. It was bleeding, just slightly. The tiniest cut from the point of his fang. Lucien's eyes fixed on that drop of blood, and his entire body went rigid. She watched in fascination as his pupils dilated, as his fangs extended fully, as every muscle tensed like a predator about to strike. "Leave." His voice was barely human, rough and desperate. "Elara, you need to leave, now." "I can't. I won't be able to." "Lucien, go." The command was a roar, and Elara flinched. But she saw past the monster to the man desperately trying to protect her from himself. She saw the way his hands gripped the wall behind him so hard the stone was cracking. Saw the way he'd turned his face away, refusing to look at her, at the blood. She grabbed a cloth and pressed it to her lip, then moved quickly to the door. At the threshold, she looked back. Lucien had slid down the wall into a crouch, his head bowed, his whole body shaking with the effort of control. He looked utterly broken, utterly defeated. "I'm not afraid of you," Elara said softly. "This doesn't change anything." "It changes everything," he rasped. "I almost lost control. But you didn't. You stopped yourself. That's what matters." She left before he could argue, closing the door gently behind her. In the corridor, she leaned against the wall, her own hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. She just kissed a vampire. A creature who survived on human blood, who had just admitted to wanting to tear out her throat. And instead of being terrified, instead of running, she wanted to go back in there and kiss him again. What was wrong with her? Mrs. Grimshaw appeared at the end of the corridor, her expression knowing. "Mr. Ashford won't emerge for several hours. He'll need time to compose himself. Perhaps you should rest, Dr. Thorne." "What happens now?" Elara asked. "What happens when he loses control?" The housekeeper's face softened slightly. "He hasn't truly lost control in 200 years, not since he learned to discipline the hunger. But when he comes close..." She hesitated. "He retreats to his chambers and doesn't emerge for days. He starves himself as punishment, pushes himself to the edge of madness. It's not pleasant to witness. That's barbaric. He's torturing himself for having natural urges. Natural for what he is, yes. But he despises what he is, Dr. Thorne. You must understand that. Every drop of blood he takes is agony for his conscience. And now you've made him want something worse than blood. He wants you, and he believes wanting you makes him a monster." Elara pressed her fingers to her lip, now healed. "What if I want him too?" "Then you're both doomed." Mrs. Grimshaw said it matter-of-factly, without judgment. "A vampire cannot love without consuming, and Mr. Ashford would rather die than consume you. It's an impossible situation, Doctor. The kindest thing you could do is cure him quickly, before this attachment destroys you both." The housekeeper left Elara alone in the corridor, her words echoing in the stone silence. Elara made her way back to her chambers, her mind racing. She should be analyzing the blood sample, studying the cellular structure, working toward the cure. Instead, all she could think about was the desperate hunger in Lucien's kiss, the way he'd pulled her closer, even as he'd fought against his nature. She stood at her window, looking out at the dawn beginning to break over the ocean. Somewhere in the manor, Lucien was locked away, hating himself for wanting her, and she was standing here, touching her lips where his fangs had grazed them, wondering what it said about her that the danger made her want him more, not less. In his private chambers, Lucien had barricaded himself in the windowless room he used when control was slipping. The heavy curtains blocked even the thought of sunlight. He sat on the floor with his back against the wall, arms wrapped around his knees, fighting the dual hungers tearing through him. Blood. He needed blood. The taste of Elara's, that single drop, had awakened a craving so intense it felt like fire in his veins. But worse than the blood hunger was the other ache, the one that had nothing to do with sustenance, and everything to do with the feel of her in his arms, the taste of her lips, the sound of her gasping his name. He'd kissed her. After swearing he wouldn't, after promising himself he'd maintain distance. He'd kissed her like a starving man at a feast, and she'd kissed him back. That was the truly devastating part. Elara Thorne, brilliant and brave and beautifully mortal, had looked at him, at the monster, and hadn't run, had pulled him closer instead of pushing away. "I'm destroying her," Lucien whispered to the darkness. "Just like I destroy everything I touch." But even as he said it, even as he hated himself for it, he knew the truth. He was falling in love with her. Perhaps had been from the moment she'd broken into his locked cabinet and refused to be intimidated by the impossible. And loving her, wanting her, needing her, it was going to damn them both. Because vampires didn't get happy endings. Vampires got centuries of loneliness and hunger and the constant ache of being neither alive nor properly dead. And now he'd dragged Elara into that darkness with him, unless she could cure him, unless her brilliant mind could find what 400 years of searching hadn't revealed, unless science could triumph over the supernatural curse that bound him. It was his only hope, their only hope. He had to believe she could do it. Had to believe that this impossible attraction between them could survive long enough for her to make him human again. Because if she couldn't, if the cure proved impossible, Lucien closed his eyes against the terrible truth. If she couldn't cure him, he would have to let her go, would have to send her away before his love for her became the thing that destroyed her, even if it meant spending the rest of eternity alone. 3 days passed before Elara saw Lucien again. She spent those days in the laboratory, obsessively analyzing his blood samples. What she discovered both thrilled and terrified her. His cells were unlike anything in medical literature. They regenerated at an impossible rate. But they were also slowly consuming themselves, caught in an eternal cycle of death and rebirth that required constant fuel. Blood fuel. It was elegant and horrifying. A perfect parasitic system that kept him frozen in time, unable to age, unable to die, unable to truly live. But she'd found something else. Something that made her hands shake as she looked through the microscope for the 100th time. When she'd mixed a sample of her own blood with his, something extraordinary happened. His cells stabilized. The frantic consumption slowed. The regeneration became more controlled. For nearly 6 hours, his blood behaved almost normally. Then the effect faded, and the hungry cycle resumed. She'd repeated the experiment a dozen times with the same results. Her blood, specifically her blood, not samples from the servants she'd tested, acted like a temporary cure. It wasn't permanent, but it proved that Catherine Thorne's effect on him hadn't been coincidence or imagination. Something in the Thorne bloodline called to whatever made him vampire. The discovery should have been purely scientific. Instead, Elara found herself thinking about what it meant, that she could ease his suffering, that her very existence gave him relief from 4 centuries of hunger, that they were connected in ways that went beyond attraction or choice. She was writing up her findings when the laboratory door opened. Lucien stood in the doorway, looking gaunt. His skin, always pale, now seemed almost translucent. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and he moved with less than his usual fluid grace. "You're starving yourself," Elara said, her scientific observation colored by concern. "I needed to prove I could control it." His voice was rough, unused. "After what happened, after I nearly..." You didn't, though. You stopped. Barely. He moved into the room slowly, keeping distance between them. Elara, I came to apologize. My behavior was inexcusable. You're here as my physician, and I kissed you back, she interrupted. And stop acting like you assaulted me. We both wanted it. That doesn't make it appropriate or safe. He finally looked directly at her, and she saw the hunger still burning in his amber eyes. You don't understand how close I came to losing control completely. One more second, one more taste of your blood, and I would have, but you didn't. Lucien, you need to feed properly. You're weakening yourself unnecessarily. I deserve it. That's ridiculous. Elara stood and crossed to him, watching him tense as she approached. You're punishing yourself for having feelings, for wanting something you believe you can't have. Because I can't have it. The words burst from him with desperate force. Don't you see? Every moment we spend together, every look, every accidental touch, it makes the hunger worse. Not the blood hunger, though God knows that's terrible enough, but the wanting, the needing, the ache of standing this close to you and knowing I can never truly touch you without risking your life. What if there was another way? Elara pulled out her research notes, spreading them across the desk. Look at this. When I mix my blood with yours, your cells stabilize. The regeneration normalizes. For hours, Lucien, your blood behaves like human blood. He leaned over the microscope, examining the slides she'd prepared. She watched understanding dawn across his features. Catherine, he breathed. It's real. What I felt with her. It wasn't imagination. There's something in my bloodline that affects yours. I don't know what yet. Some genetic marker, some chemical composition, but it's measurable, reproducible. It's science, not magic. Lucien's hands gripped the edge of the desk. This is what I hoped for, what I needed you to find. If your blood can stabilize mine temporarily, perhaps with enough exposure, with the right synthesis, we might be able to create a permanent cure, Elara finished. But Lucien, there's a problem. What problem? She took a breath, knowing how he'd react. The effect requires regular exposure to my blood. Based on the rate of degradation, you'd need a transfusion approximately every 3 days to maintain stability. And even then, I don't know if we can synthesize enough from samples. The interaction seems to require freshness, living blood. The implications hung between them like a physical presence. No, Lucien stepped back from the desk. Absolutely not. I won't feed on you, Elara. That's not a cure, that's exactly what I'm trying to escape. It's not feeding, it's medical treatment. Controlled, measured transfusions that would help stabilize you while we work on a permanent solution. You're asking me to drink your blood. His voice was flat, horrified. To do the very thing I despise about my existence. To make you into my personal... He couldn't finish the sentence. I'm asking you to let me help you. Elara moved closer despite his obvious discomfort. Every 3 days, a small amount, enough to keep you stable, to ease the suffering, while we continue research toward a real cure. It's not permanent, but it would give us time. Time for what? For you to slowly weaken yourself keeping me functional. For me to become dependent on you in yet another way. He laughed bitterly. Don't you see how this makes everything worse? How it ties you to me in exactly the way I've been trying to avoid. Or it gives us what we need, proximity, time, stability, to find the actual cure. Lucien was shaking his head before she finished speaking. I can't. I won't. The risk of losing control, of taking too much, of hurting you, is minimal under controlled conditions. We're scientists, Lucien. We can establish protocols, safeguards. You're not hearing me. He grabbed her shoulders. then immediately released her as if burned. Elara, having your blood freely given, having you offer yourself to me willingly, it would be the most exquisite torture imaginable, worse than 400 years of starvation, because I would know every time that I'm consuming part of you, that I'm taking your life force to sustain my cursed existence. It would destroy me. More than dying of hunger, more than attacking innocence, more than spending eternity alone. She caught his hand before he could pull away completely. You're so focused on what it would cost you, you're not seeing what it would give us. A chance. Hope. Time to find the permanent solution. His fingers tightened around hers, cold and desperate. Why? Why would you do this? Risk this? You barely know me. I know enough. Elara held his gaze. I know you've spent 4 centuries hating what you are. I know you've never taken a life, despite the cost to yourself. I know you brought me here not out of selfishness, but out of desperate hope for redemption. And I know that when you kissed me, when your nature emerged and you could have hurt me, you chose to hurt yourself instead. That's not enough reason to. And I know that I'm falling for you, she interrupted, the words spilling out before courage could fail. And despite every logical reason not to, despite knowing it's dangerous and complicated and possibly doomed, I'm falling for you, Lucien Ashford, and I want to help you, not out of scientific curiosity, but because I care about you. The silence that followed was absolute. Lucien stared at her as if she'd spoken in a foreign language, as if the words couldn't possibly mean what they clearly meant. You can't, he finally whispered. Elara, you can't love me. I'm a dead thing, a monster. I'm a man, she said firmly. A man who's suffered long enough. Let me help you. Please. For a long moment, he seemed to war with himself. She could see it in his face. Hope battling with self-hatred, desire fighting with fear, the desperate need for connection struggling against 4 centuries of isolation. If we do this, he said slowly, we establish strict protocols, medical environment only, measured amounts, and the moment, the very second, I show signs of losing control, we stop. Forever. Agreed. And you have to promise me something else. His voice dropped lower. If I hurt you, if I take too much, if this becomes dangerous, you leave. You go back to London and you never come back. You don't try to save me or fix me or convince me it was an accident. You just go. Promise me. Lucien, promise me, Elara. It's the only way I can agree to this. She wanted to argue, to tell him that she wouldn't abandon him, that they'd face whatever came together. But she saw in his eyes that he needed this, needed to know that if the worst happened, she would survive. I promise, she lied. He knew it was a lie. She could see it in the sad smile that crossed his face. But he accepted it anyway, because the alternative was refusing her help, and they both knew he couldn't do that. Not anymore. Not when she'd offered him exactly what he'd been searching for across centuries. Hope. When do we start? He asked. Tomorrow night. I need to prepare equipment, establish baseline measurements, calculate the optimal amount. She was already planning it out, her scientific mind engaging with the problem. And we'll do the first transfusion in the laboratory, controlled environment, monitoring equipment ready. How much will you need to give? Based on the rate of cellular stabilization, approximately 250 milliliters every 3 days. It's a substantial amount, but not dangerous for someone healthy. I'll need to increase my iron intake. Stay well nourished. Lucien closed his eyes. 250 milliliters. Nearly half a pint. Elara, that's manageable, she insisted. People donate more during bloodletting procedures. I'll be fine. You keep saying that, as if repetition will make it true. It is true. I'm not fragile, Lucien. I'm not some delicate flower who'll wilt from helping you. He opened his eyes and looked at her with such intensity she felt it like a physical touch. You're the strongest person I've met in 400 years. That's not what worries me. What worries me is that your strength will make you underestimate the danger. Will make you think you can save me no matter what it costs you. Isn't that exactly what you're doing? Trying to save yourself no matter what it costs. That's different. Why? Because you're the monster and I'm the human. Because your life matters less than mine. She stepped closer, close enough to feel the cold radiating from him. You keep talking about yourself like you're worthless, like 400 years of existence means nothing. But you're wrong, Lucien. Your life has value. Your survival matters. And if my blood can help you reclaim your humanity, then that's what we're going to do. For the first time since entering the laboratory, Lucien allowed himself to hope. Really hope. Not the desperate, clinging hope he'd felt when he'd first brought her to Ravenshallow, but something warmer, something that felt almost like faith. I don't deserve you, he murmured. Probably not, Elara agreed with a slight smile. But you're stuck with me anyway. He reached out slowly and cupped her face, his cold palm against her warm cheek. This time, he didn't pull away. This time, he allowed himself the contact, the connection, the impossible intimacy of touching her. If this works, he said softly, if we find the cure and I become human again, what then? Then you get to live the life you were supposed to have 400 years ago. You get to feel sunlight, taste food, grow old, all the normal, beautiful, mundane things you've been denied. And you? His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. What do you get? Elara leaned into his touch, feeling the cold but not caring. I get to see you smile in the sunlight. I get to watch you discover what it means to be alive again. I get to know that I helped save someone who deserved saving. That's all. She knew what he was asking, knew what hung unspoken between them. The question of what they were to each other, what they might become if the impossible happened and he was cured. Ask me again when you're human, she said quietly. When you can touch me without fearing you'll hurt me. When we can be together without 400 years of trauma standing between us. Ask me then what I want. And if I never become human, if this doesn't work, then we keep trying, for as long as it takes. Lucien leaned forward and pressed his forehead to hers, a gesture that was becoming familiar, intimate. You're going to break my heart, Elara Thorne. Only if you break mine first. They stood like that for a long moment, neither moving, neither speaking, just existing together in the quiet of the laboratory. Two people who shouldn't have found each other but somehow had. Outside the barred windows, dawn was breaking. Soon Lucien would have to retreat to his windowless chambers, to hide from the sun that would destroy him. Soon Elara would return to her regular rooms, to sleep through the day and wake with the dusk. But for now, in this moment, they were simply together. A vampire who wanted to be human, and a human who'd agreed to help him, both of them balanced on the knife's edge between salvation and destruction. Tomorrow then, Lucien said, finally pulling back. We begin treatment tomorrow. Tomorrow, Elara agreed. He left the laboratory, pausing at the door to look back at her. Elara, thank you. For giving me something I haven't had in 400 years. What's that? A reason to want to survive. Then he was gone, leaving her alone with her research notes and the growing certainty that she'd just agreed to something far more dangerous than a medical procedure. She'd agreed to bind herself to him in the most intimate way possible, to give him her blood, her life force, her very essence. And in doing so, she'd tied their fates together in ways that couldn't be undone. But as Elara prepared for bed, as dawn light slowly filled her windows, she found she didn't regret it, didn't fear it. Because for the first time in her carefully controlled, scientifically rational life, she was following her heart instead of her head. And her heart was telling her that Lucien Ashford, vampire, monster, impossibility, was worth every risk. In his chambers, Lucien sat in the darkness and tried not to think about tomorrow, about Elara offering herself to him willingly, about the taste of her blood, the warmth of it, the life in it, about how desperately he wanted it, and how terrified he was that wanting it would destroy them both. But beneath the fear was something else, something he barely dared acknowledge. For 400 years, he'd been alone. For 400 years, he'd been hungry. For 400 years, he'd been slowly dying inside while his body refused to die. And now, finally, there was light in the darkness. Even if that light burned him to ash, it was worth it to have felt its warmth. The first transfusion was clinical, professional, everything it needed to be and nothing more. Elara had prepared the laboratory with meticulous care. Sterile instruments laid out in perfect order, monitoring equipment calibrated, 2 chairs positioned facing each other, close enough for the procedure, but far enough to maintain professional distance. She'd spent the day forcing herself to eat iron-rich foods, to hydrate properly, to prepare her body for what was coming. Now, as dusk settled over Ravenshallow and Lucien appeared in the laboratory doorway, she felt ready. He looked better than he had yesterday, still too pale, still too thin, but more present, more himself. "Are you certain about this?" he asked, for what must have been the 10th time since they'd agreed. "Sit down, Lucien." He obeyed, settling into the chair with a wariness that made her heart ache. This man, this creature, had survived 400 years of horror, yet he approached this moment of hope with terror. Elara sat across from him and began her preparations, narrating each step as she would with any patient. "I'm going to insert a catheter into your antecubital vein. The blood will flow through this tube into the collection bag. Once we have the required amount, I'll remove the catheter and transfer the blood to a sterile container for your consumption." You make it sound so clinical. It is clinical. This is a medical procedure, nothing more. But they both knew that was a lie. She inserted the needle smoothly, watching her blood begin to flow through the clear tubing. It looked ordinary, just blood, red and vital. But Lucien's eyes fixed on it with an intensity that made the air feel electric. "Talk to me," Elara said, needing to distract him from the sight. "Tell me about Ravenshallow. How did your family come to settle here?" Lucien tore his gaze away from the flowing blood with visible effort. "My great-grandfather built the first fortress here in 1287. Strategic location. The harbor was perfect for trade. The cliffs provided natural defense. The family prospered for 2 centuries before..." He paused. "And before I ruined everything." "How did you ruin it?" "I was the last legitimate heir. When I was turned, when I became this, I couldn't marry, couldn't produce heirs. The family line ended with me, and I've spent 400 years watching Ravenshallow slowly decay because I can't let go. Why not leave? Find somewhere new. And abandon the people here. The town depends on the Ashford estate. I fund schools, hospitals, fishing operations. If I left, Ravenshallow would die." His hands clenched on the armrests. "I'm trapped by duty and guilt, and the knowledge that if I disappeared, everything my ancestors built would crumble." The collection bag was nearly full. Elara checked the measurement, exactly 250 milliliters, as calculated. She removed the catheter and pressed gauze to the puncture site. "Hold this," she instructed, and Lucien's cold fingers covered hers briefly before taking over the pressure. She transferred the blood to a crystal goblet. Lucien had insisted on something that felt less medical, less monstrous. The blood looked dark against the fine crystal, steam rising from it in the cold laboratory. "There are trace amounts of sedative mixed in," Elara explained, keeping her voice steady. "To help you maintain control, it won't incapacitate you. but it should ease things. Lucien took the goblet with trembling hands. Elara, if I lose control, you won't. I trust you. Your trust may be misplaced. Then prove me right. He lifted the goblet to his lips, hesitated one final moment, then drank. Elara watched his reaction with professional detachment that lasted approximately 3 seconds before being overwhelmed by something far more complicated. Lucien's eyes closed, his whole body going rigid. The goblet trembled in his grip. A sound escaped him. Not quite a moan, not quite a gasp, something raw and desperate that made heat pool in Elara's stomach. When his eyes opened, they glowed, literally glowed. Amber turned to molten gold. His fangs had extended fully, sharp and deadly beautiful. He looked at her with such hunger, such need, that she felt it like a physical touch. Elara, he breathed, her name a prayer and a curse. How do you feel? Like I'm burning and freezing simultaneously. Like every cell in my body is waking up after centuries of sleep. Like I could tear apart the world or put it back together. His voice had dropped an octave, rough with barely contained need. Your blood is God, Elara. It's ecstasy and agony. It's everything. She checked his vital signs with hands that shook slightly. His temperature had risen, still below human normal, but warmer than before. His skin had color now, a faint flush that made him look almost alive. The cellular response is immediate, she noted, trying to focus on science. Your regeneration is already stabilizing. Lucien, this is working. I know. He set down the empty goblet carefully, as if afraid he'd crush it. I can feel it. The hunger is not gone, but quiet. For the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel almost human. That's good. That's exactly what we hoped for. Is it? He stood abruptly, pacing away from her. Because right now, I don't feel grateful or relieved. I feel ravenous, not for more blood, but for you. Having your essence inside me, knowing it came from your veins, that you gave it willingly. It's the most erotic thing I've experienced in 400 years, and I desperately need you to understand how dangerous that makes me right now. Elara's breath caught. She should have felt afraid, should have maintained professional distance. Instead, she found herself standing, moving toward him. Dangerous how? Don't. He held up a hand, stopping her advance. Don't come closer. I'm barely holding on here. Maybe you don't have to hold on so tightly. Elara, I'm serious. Your blood is singing in my veins. I can feel your heartbeat as if it's my own. I want to touch you, taste you, consume you in every possible way. The sedative you added isn't nearly strong enough to counter what I'm feeling. Then tell me what you're feeling. Use words, Lucien. Help me understand. He laughed, harsh and broken. I'm feeling alive. For the first time in 4 centuries, I feel genuinely alive. And it's because of you. Because you're literally inside me now, part of me. Do you have any idea how intimate that is? How it binds us together in ways I can't explain? Show me. What? Elara closed the distance between them despite his warning. Show me. Let me feel what you're feeling. Let me understand. I can't. If I touch you right now... She took his hand, pressing his palm flat against her chest, right over her heart. His cold fingers spread across her skin, separated from direct contact only by the thin fabric of her blouse. Lucien's breath hitched. Your heartbeat. I can feel it. So strong, so steady. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever felt. Then feel it. Stop fighting yourself for one moment and just feel. His other hand came up to frame her face, tilting her head back so he could look directly into her eyes. You're playing with fire, Dr. Thorne. Maybe I want to burn. He kissed her then, and it was nothing like their first kiss. This was possession and surrender combined. His mouth claimed hers with desperate hunger, and Elara kissed him back with equal intensity, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. She could taste herself on his lips, the copper-sweet flavor of her own blood mixed with something else, something uniquely him. It should have been disturbing. Instead, it felt right in a way she couldn't explain. Lucien's hands moved to her waist, lifting her onto the laboratory table. He pressed against her, cold body against warm, and the contrast made her gasp into his mouth. His fangs grazed her lip again, but this time he controlled it, gentle enough not to break skin. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against her mouth. "Tell me this is insane and dangerous and wrong." "It is all of those things." "Then why aren't you stopping me?" "Because I don't want to." His forehead dropped to her shoulder, his breath, unnecessary but present, ghosting across her skin. "We're going to destroy each other." "Probably. This can't end well." "I don't care." Lucien pulled back enough to look at her, his amber eyes still glowing with that otherworldly light. "You should care. You should run from me, from this place, from everything I represent." "Why?" "So you can go back to 4 centuries of loneliness. So we can both pretend we don't feel this connection." She cupped his face, forcing him to maintain eye contact. "I'm not running, Lucien. Not from you. Not from what's happening between us. Even knowing what I am. What I'll always be if the cure doesn't work. Even then." He kissed her again, softer this time, reverent. "You're either incredibly brave or completely insane. Can't I be both?" A sound interrupted them, something crashing in the distance, followed by shouting. Lucien's head snapped up, his body going rigid with predatory alertness. Something's wrong in the town. They rushed to the window. In the distance, Ravenshallow glowed orange. Fire. Smoke rising into the night sky. "The fishing quarter," Lucien said, already moving toward the door. "Those buildings are old, wooden. If the fire spreads, we have to help. You're staying here. You just gave blood. You're weakened. I'm fine, and you'll need all the help you can get." They argued even as they ran through the manor, grabbing cloaks against the night chill. Mrs. Grimshaw met them at the door, her face pale. "It started at the widow Crane's cottage. It's spreading fast, Mr. Ashford. The whole quarter could go." Lucien and Elara rode into town together, his carriage moving at dangerous speed. By the time they arrived, half the fishing quarter was ablaze. People ran in panic, trying to save possessions, searching for family members. "Organize bucket brigades," Lucien shouted, his aristocratic authority cutting through the chaos. "Focus on containment, not saving the structures. Move everyone to the church." Elara found herself working alongside townspeople she'd never met, passing buckets of water, helping evacuate families. The heat was intense, the smoke choking. She'd lost sight of Lucien in the chaos. Then she heard the screaming. A child, trapped in a building that was more flame than structure, the roof already beginning to collapse. Without thinking, Elara ran toward the sound. The heat hit her like a wall, but she pushed through, following the child's cries. Inside, she found a girl no more than 6, trapped behind a fallen beam, terror stark on her soot-stained face. I've got you," Elara gasped, her lungs burning from the smoke. She grabbed the beam, trying to lift it, but it was too heavy, too hot. Her hands blistered from the contact. The ceiling groaned above them, out of time. Then Lucien was there, appearing from the smoke like a phantom. He lifted the beam with supernatural ease, tossing it aside. He grabbed the child with one arm, Elara with the other, and moved with impossible speed. They emerged from the building seconds before it collapsed entirely, the roof caving in with a roar of flame and destruction. Lucien set them down away from the fire, his eyes wild as he looked Elara over. Are you insane? Running into a burning building. She was just a child. And you could have died. The girl's mother appeared, sobbing with relief, and took her daughter from Lucien's arms. The moment was chaotic, gratitude and terror mixing, people rushing past, the fire still raging. Then Elara saw it. Lucien's sleeve had burned away, revealing his arm beneath. The flesh was blackened, blistered, clearly agonizing. But even as she watched, it began to heal, new skin growing over the damage. A woman nearby saw it too, pointed, gasped. His arm, it's healing. Look at his arm. More people turned, stared. Lucien's supernatural regeneration happening in full view, impossible to explain away. Unnatural. Devil's work. Monster. The crowd's mood shifted in an instant from gratitude to horror. Lucien backed away, his expression stricken. I was only trying to help. Stay away from us. A man picked up a stone. We don't want your kind here. Elara stepped in front of Lucien, her arms spread wide. Stop! He saved that child! He saved all of you. He's not human, the woman shouted. Look at him. He's one of them. A vampire. The word rippled through the crowd like poison. People who moments ago had been fighting the fire together now backed away in fear and disgust. A stone flew through the air, catching Lucien on the temple. He didn't even flinch as blood, his unnatural dark blood, trickled down his face. Go, Elara whispered to him, before this gets worse. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Please, Lucien, go. He hesitated one moment longer, his eyes meeting hers. In them, she saw 400 years of rejection, of hatred, of being called monster by the very people he'd tried to protect. Then he was gone, vanished into the shadows with preternatural speed. The crowd turned on Elara. You knew. You've been living with that creature. He's not a creature. He's... But she couldn't finish. The blood loss, the smoke inhalation, the shock of everything that had happened. It all crashed over her at once. The world tilted, and Elara felt herself falling. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was the fire still burning, consuming everything in its path, much like the love growing between her and Lucien was consuming them both. Elara woke to pain. Everything hurt. Her lungs burned with every breath. Her hands throbbed where the beam had blistered them. Her head pounded from smoke inhalation and blood loss. She tried to move and gasped as agony lanced through her ribs. Don't! Lucien's voice came from the shadows beside her bed. You have 3 broken ribs, severe smoke inhalation, 2nd-degree burns on your hands, and you're dangerously anemic from blood loss. Stay still. Her eyes adjusted to the dim light. She was in her room at the manor, propped up on pillows. Lucien sat in a chair pulled close to the bed, his face haggard. Dawn light crept around the edges of the heavy curtains. The child. Elara's voice came out as a rasp. Safe. You saved her life. His jaw clenched. Nearly at the cost of your own. The fire. Contained. Half the fishing quarter is gone, but no lives were lost. He stood and paced to the window, careful to avoid the light. The town knows what I am now. Mrs. Grimshaw is fielding accusations and death threats. They want me to leave Ravenshallow, or they'll come to the manor with torches and stakes. That's ridiculous. You've protected this town for 400 years of secretly feeding on them, Lucien interrupted bitterly. They're right to fear me, Elara. Right to want me gone. I'm the monster in their stories made real. Elara tried to sit up, and immediately regretted it as pain exploded through her chest. Lucien was beside her in an instant, his cold hands gentle as he eased her back down. I told you not to move. How long have I been unconscious? 2 days. The doctor said you'd wake when your body was ready. His hand lingered on her shoulder, his thumb brushing her collarbone. "I thought I'd lost you. When you collapsed, when I couldn't reach you through the crowd. Elara, I thought you were dying. But I didn't. You came close. Dangerously close." His amber eyes met hers, and she saw raw fear there. "The doctor said if you'd inhaled any more smoke, if your injuries had been any worse, and it would have been my fault. You ran into that fire because of me, because of my cursed existence and the disasters it brings. I ran into that fire because a child was screaming. That had nothing to do with you. Everything has to do with me." The words burst from him with terrible force. The fire started because old tensions finally erupted. Mrs. Crane's cottage was burned deliberately, revenge for her son's wasting sickness that everyone now knows came from me. The town is tearing itself apart over what I am, and you nearly died in the crossfire. Elara reached for his hand despite the pain it caused. "Lucien, I'm leaving Ravenshallow." His voice was flat, decided. "Mrs. Grimshaw is making arrangements. I'll transfer the estate to a trust that will continue funding the town. You'll return to London with a generous payment for your time. Whatever this is between us, ends now, before I destroy you completely." "No, that's not a request, Elara. It's the only choice that makes sense." "Then it's a stupid choice." She tightened her grip on his hand, ignoring the pain shooting through her burned palm. "You're running because you're scared, because the town saw what you are and reacted with fear. But hiding won't cure you, Lucien. Disappearing won't give you back your humanity." "Nothing will give me back my humanity." He pulled his hand from hers and resumed pacing, agitated. "Don't you understand? We tried. Your blood helped, yes, but it's not a cure. It's a temporary reprieve that requires you to weaken yourself every 3 days to maintain. That's not sustainable. That's not a solution. That's slow suicide on your part to keep me functional. We've had one transfusion. One. You can't declare the treatment a failure after a single attempt. I can when the cost is your life." He spun to face her, anguish etched in every line of his face. "You ran into a burning building, Elara. You collapsed from blood loss and smoke inhalation. You're lying in that bed broken and burned because of me. How much more are you willing to sacrifice? How much more am I supposed to watch you suffer before I do the right thing and let you go?" "The right thing," Elara said slowly, "would be to stop making decisions for me. I'm not a child, Lucien. I knew the risks when I agreed to help you. I knew this wouldn't be easy or safe or simple, and I chose to stay anyway." "Why?" The question came out as a desperate plea. "Why would you risk so much for something so uncertain?" "Because I love you." The words fell into the space between them like stones into still water, rippling out in waves of implication. Lucien went absolutely still. "No, you don't. You can't. You barely know me." "I know you better than you think. I know you're terrified of hurting people, but you do it anyway because the alternative is letting them die. I know you've spent 400 years hating yourself for something that wasn't your choice. I know you're brave and selfless and so desperately lonely it breaks my heart." Elara's voice softened. "And I know that I love you. Not despite what you are, but including all of it. The vampire and the man, the monster and the hero, all of it. You're delirious. The smoke inhalation. Stop it. Stop trying to rationalize away what I feel." She struggled to sit up again, and this time Lucien didn't stop her, too shocked by her declaration to move. "I love you, Lucien Ashford, and if you leave, if you run away because you're afraid of that love, then you're a coward." "I am a coward," he said quietly. "I've been running from myself for 400 years. Why should loving you be any different? Because this time, you don't have to run alone. This time, someone is willing to stand beside you and fight. But only if you let me." He sank onto the edge of the bed, his weight barely making an impression on the mattress. "I can't ask you to do that. Can't ask you to tie yourself to someone who might never be cured, who might exist in this cursed state forever. You're not asking. I'm offering. There's a difference." Lucien looked at her, really looked at her. Burned and broken and still defiant, still refusing to give up on him despite every reason to do so. And something in his expression cracked open, 400 years of careful control shattering. "I love you too," he whispered, the admission torn from somewhere deep inside him. God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love your brilliant mind and your stubborn courage and the way you look at me like I'm not a monster. I love that you ran into a burning building to save a child without hesitation. I love everything about you, and that's exactly why I have to let you go. No. Elara? No, I'm not leaving. I'm not giving up. And neither are you." She reached for him again, and this time he let her pull him closer. "We're going to find the cure, Lucien. Together. However long it takes. Whatever it costs, we're going to make you human again. And if we can't?" She met his eyes without flinching. "Then we find a way to live with what you are. But we do it together." For a long moment, Lucien seemed to struggle with himself. Then, with a sound that was half laugh, half sob, he leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. "You're going to be the death of me," he murmured. "Well, you're already dead. Technically undead. Even worse." They stayed like that, foreheads touching, breathing together, or rather, Elara breathing while Lucien mimicked the gesture. The intimacy of it felt more profound than any kiss. "The town really does want me gone," Lucien said eventually. "Even if I stay, the hostility will make your research impossible. We can't work in an environment where we're constantly under threat. Then we leave together. Take the research to London, or somewhere else. Somewhere we can work without fear. And abandon Ravenshallow? You can still fund the town from a distance. Set up the trust you mentioned. But Lucien, you can't sacrifice yourself on the altar of duty forever. You've given 400 years to this place. Maybe it's time to choose yourself for once." He pulled back enough to study her face. "You'd leave your life in London? Your colleagues? Your reputation? For the chance to cure vampirism? To help you? Yes. Without hesitation. You're insane. So you keep saying, are you going to kiss me or keep questioning my sanity?" Lucien smiled then. A real smile that transformed his severe features. "Both, probably." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if the pain was too much. Elara met him halfway, despite the protest of her broken ribs, her burned hands finding their way into his hair. The kiss was gentle, reverent. Nothing like the desperate passion of before. This was softer, deeper, a promise rather than a demand. When they finally parted, Lucien's eyes were suspiciously bright. "I don't deserve you. Nobody deserves anybody. We just choose each other and hope for the best." Optimistic philosophy for someone dating a vampire. Dating? Is that what we're doing? I don't know what else to call it. Courting sounds too antiquated even for me. Elara laughed, then gasped as pain shot through her ribs. "Don't make me laugh. It hurts." "Then I'll have to be very serious and boring from now on. Please don't. I fell in love with you exactly as you are." He kissed her again, soft and sweet, then stood reluctantly. "You need rest. The doctor left instructions. You're to stay in bed for at least a week while the ribs heal." "A week? Lucien, we have work to do. Which can wait until you're healthy." His tone brooked no argument. "I'm not losing you to stubbornness and overwork, Elara. You're staying in bed, following doctor's orders, and letting yourself heal. That's non-negotiable. And what will you do while I'm convalescing? Begin making arrangements. If we're leaving Ravenshallow, it needs to be done properly. The estate needs to be secured, funds transferred, staff taken care of. He moved toward the door, then paused. And I'll be researching locations. Somewhere we can work without interference. Somewhere with access to medical libraries and supplies. Somewhere with less hostile neighbors. That would be ideal, yes. After he left, Elara lay back against the pillows, her mind already racing despite her body's exhaustion. She'd confessed her love to a vampire. He'd confessed his love back. They were planning to leave together, to continue the research in secret, to find a cure for a condition that had lasted 400 years. It was insane, impossible, dangerous, and she'd never been more certain of anything in her life. 3 days passed before Elara was strong enough to leave her bed. The burns on her hands had healed to pink, tender skin. Her ribs still ached, but the worst of the pain had faded. She could breathe without gasping. Lucien had been attentive throughout her recovery, visiting every evening, bringing books and research materials, sitting with her in companionable silence. They didn't speak much about the future. There was an unspoken agreement to focus on her healing first. But tonight, as she finally made her way to the laboratory, she found him hunched over her microscope, examining slides with fierce concentration. "What are you looking at?" she asked from the doorway. He looked up, surprise crossing his face. "You should be resting." "I've rested enough." "What are you looking at?" Lucien gestured to the microscope. "Your blood samples from before the fire. I've been studying the interaction with my cells, trying to understand the mechanism. Elara, I think I found something." She moved to the microscope, ignoring the twinge in her ribs. What she saw made her breath catch. "The binding sites," she breathed. "They're genetic markers. Lucien, this isn't random compatibility. This is evolutionary adaptation. Your cells are designed to bond with a specific bloodline. The Thorne bloodline. Why? I don't know, but it means the cure might not be in changing your cells. It might be in amplifying the effect of mine. If we can isolate the specific proteins my blood produces, synthesize them in high enough concentrations, we could create a permanent treatment." Lucien's voice was rough with hope. Not temporary stabilization, but actual reversal of the condition. They looked at each other across the laboratory, the weight of the discovery hanging between them. "This could actually work," Elara said quietly. "It could, but the research will take time. Months, maybe years. Then we'd better get started." Lucien crossed to her and took her hands gently, mindful of the healing burns. "Are you sure? Once we commit to this path, once we leave Ravenshallow and dedicate ourselves to this research, there's no going back. Your life will never be normal again. My life stopped being normal the moment I agreed to study a vampire. I'm not looking for normal, Lucien. I'm looking for extraordinary. And that's exactly what this is." He pulled her into his arms, careful of her injuries, and held her like she was something precious. "I love you, Elara Thorne. Whatever happens, whatever we discover, I want you to know that. I love you too." She pulled back enough to look into his amber eyes. "Now let's figure out how to make you human again so we can have a proper future together. And if we can't, then we'll build whatever future we can with what we have, together." Outside the laboratory windows, dawn was beginning to break. Lucien would have to retreat to his windowless chambers soon, to hide from the light that would destroy him. But for the first time in 400 years, he faced that dawn with hope instead of despair. Because even if the sun could never touch him, even if he remained a creature of darkness and hunger, he had something he'd never had before. He had love. He had purpose. He had Elara. And that, for now, was enough. They left Ravenshallow on a moonless night 3 weeks later. The carriage was packed with essential equipment, research notes, and blood samples carefully preserved in ice. Mrs. Grimshaw had arranged everything with her usual efficiency. The estate placed in trust, staff provided for, the town's funding secured for generations to come. Elara watched the manor disappear into the mist, feeling an unexpected pang of loss. Despite everything, this place had become significant. It was where she'd discovered the impossible, where she'd fallen in love with a creature who shouldn't exist. Regrets? Lucien asked from beside her. None, you. He considered the question. 400 years I lived in that manor. 400 years of isolation and darkness. And now I'm leaving it behind for the first time with someone who knows what I am and loves me anyway. No, Dr. Thorne. No regrets. They traveled to Edinburgh first, far enough from Ravenshallow to avoid scrutiny, urban enough to access medical libraries and supplies, but not so large as London, where Elara's disappearance would raise too many questions. Lucien purchased a townhouse near the university under an assumed name. The previous owner had been an eccentric scientist, and the property came equipped with a laboratory in the basement, smaller than Ashford Manor's, but well appointed. They fell into a routine. Elara would wake in the late afternoon, work through the evening and night alongside Lucien, then sleep through the morning hours. The nocturnal schedule suited them both. The research progressed slowly but steadily. They'd refined the transfusion protocol. Every 3 days, Elara would give blood, and Lucien's condition would stabilize. Between transfusions, they worked to isolate the specific proteins in her blood that his cells craved. 6 months passed, then 8, then a year. Elara's colleagues in London had stopped writing, assuming she'd abandoned her career for marriage or scandal. Her reputation was likely in tatters. She found she didn't care. This work, understanding vampirism, curing Lucien, was more important than any recognition from the medical establishment. And her relationship with Lucien had deepened into something she couldn't have imagined that first night at Ashford Manor. They were partners in every sense, intellectually, emotionally, and increasingly, physically. Though Lucien maintained strict boundaries about intimacy, terrified of losing control and hurting her, they kissed, touched, held each other through the dark hours. But he always pulled back before things went too far, and Elara learned not to push, until the night everything changed. It started with a book. Elara had been researching the history of vampirism, looking for any documented cases of reversal or cure. Most sources were worthless, folklore and superstition masquerading as fact. But then she found a reference in an obscure medieval text, a passing mention of the blood-bound prophecy. She spent days tracking down the full text, finally locating it in the university's restricted collection. The manuscript was in Latin, centuries old, and nearly illegible, but what she translated made her blood run cold. Lucien. Her voice was barely a whisper. "You need to see this." He came to stand behind her chair, reading over her shoulder. She felt him go rigid as he processed the words. "It can't be," he breathed. But it was. Written in fading ink on crumbling parchment was a prophecy dated 1347, describing vampirism not as a curse, but as a mystical bond between two souls. When the bloodbound finds their true match, descended from the line of the first offering, the curse may be broken, but only through willing sacrifice. The match must give their life freely, their blood consumed in totality, their essence merged with the cursed. In death, transformation. In transformation, redemption. One will walk in sunlight renewed. One will walk no more. "The first offering," Elara murmured. "Lucien, when were you turned? What year?" 1501, May. I was 24. She flipped through her notes on Catherine Thorne, cross-referencing dates. Catherine was born in 1653, but according to genealogical records, her mother's line traces back to Anriasa. Oh God. What? To a woman named Margaret Thorne, documented in 1498, 3 years before you were turned. Elara's hands shook as she pulled more records. Margaret Thorne disappeared from Bristol in 1501, simply vanished. No death record, no marriage record. Just gone. Lucien sank into the chair beside her, his face ashen. The woman who turned me. She never told me her name. But I remember. She had dark hair, sharp features, intelligent eyes. She looked like me, Elara finished. Like Catherine. Like every woman in the Thorne bloodline. The implications crashed over them like a wave. She was one of your ancestors, Lucien said slowly. The vampire who turned me was from your bloodline. That's why Catherine's presence affected me. That's why your blood stabilizes mine. It's not random genetic compatibility. It's mystical connection. The prophecy says the line of the first offering. If Margaret Thorne was the first human to willingly give blood to a vampire, to create this bond. Elara couldn't finish the thought. Lucien stood abruptly, pacing. One, this is insane. Magic isn't real. Prophecies aren't real. We're scientists, Elara. We deal in facts and evidence. Then explain the evidence. Explain why my blood, specifically my blood, from this specific bloodline, affects you in ways no one else's does. Explain the genetic markers that look designed rather than random. Explain Catherine, Margaret, me. Explain 400 years of this pattern repeating. I can't, he admitted. But the alternative. Elara, the prophecy says one of us dies. It says your blood must be consumed in totality. That means, I know what it means. Then you know it's not an option. I won't kill you. I don't care what some medieval text promises about redemption or transformation. I won't murder you to become human. Elara stood and crossed to him, taking his cold hands in hers. What if it's not murder? What if it's the cure we've been searching for? It's death. Your death. That's not a cure, that's horror. The prophecy says willing sacrifice. I'd be choosing it, Lucien. Choosing to give you your humanity back. No. His voice was flat, absolute. We're not discussing this. We'll find another way. But over the following weeks, as their research continued to yield only incremental progress, the prophecy haunted them both. Elara found herself thinking about it constantly. The mystical bond, the willing sacrifice, the promise of transformation and redemption. One night, as she prepared for their regular transfusion, she made a decision. I want to try something different tonight, she said, her voice carefully neutral. Lucien looked up from his notes. What kind of different? More blood, double the usual amount. Absolutely not. We established safe parameters for a reason. But what if the parameters are wrong? What if the partial transfusions are maintaining your condition rather than curing it? What if you need more to trigger actual transformation? Or what if taking more kills you? Lucien shook his head. We're not experimenting with your life, Elara. Then whose life should we experiment with? You're immortal. I'm the only variable we can actually change. That's exactly why we're not doing this. They argued for hours, Lucien adamant, Elara increasingly frustrated. Finally, exhausted and emotionally raw, they went to bed in silence. But Elara couldn't sleep. The prophecy kept circling through her mind. Willing sacrifice. One will walk in sunlight renewed. If it could work. If she could give Lucien back his humanity, wouldn't that be worth any cost? She slipped from bed and went to the laboratory. The equipment was ready, as always. She prepared the largest collection bag they had, one that could hold nearly a liter of blood. It was dangerous, potentially fatal. She knew that, but she also knew that their current approach was failing. Months of careful transfusions had stabilized Lucien but brought them no closer to a cure. Maybe the prophecy was right. Maybe half measures wouldn't work. Maybe love required complete surrender. She inserted the catheter into her vein and watched her blood begin to flow. The bag filled slowly, 250 milliliters, their usual amount, then 500. then 7:50. Elara's vision began to blur. Her heartbeat felt irregular, too fast and too slow simultaneously. The room spun. She should stop, should remove the catheter, apply pressure, call for Lucien. Instead, she watched the blood continue to flow. 900 milliliters, 950. The laboratory door crashed open. "Elara!" Lucien's roar was anguished, terrified. He was across the room in an instant, ripping the catheter from her arm, applying pressure to stop the bleeding, but it was too late. Elara's vision was darkening, her body going cold. She'd lost too much blood too quickly. "What did you do?" Lucien's voice broke. "God, Elara, what did you do?" "Testing. The prophecy," she managed to whisper. "I had to know. You're dying. You're dying because you're brilliant and stubborn and completely insane." He lifted her into his arms, cradling her against his chest. "Stay with me. Please, Elara, stay with me." "The blood," she gasped. "Don't waste it. Drink it. See if it works." "I'm not drinking your blood while you die from blood loss. I'm taking you to a hospital." "No time. Hospital can't help." Her hand found his face, cold against her rapidly cooling skin. "I love you. If this works, if you become human, live, Lucien, live for both of us." No, I'm not accepting that. You're not dying. I won't let you." But even as he said it, Elara's heartbeat was slowing, her breathing becoming shallow, her eyes losing focus. Lucien looked at the collection bag, nearly full with her blood, looked at Elara dying in his arms, looked at the impossible choice before him. Let her die having sacrificed herself for nothing, or drink the blood she'd given, completing the prophecy, potentially transforming, but consuming the woman he loved in the process. "I can't," he whispered. "I can't do this." "Have to," Elara breathed. Her eyes found his one last time. "Save yourself. That's all I ever wanted." Her eyes closed. Her breathing stopped. And Lucien Ashford, 400-year-old vampire who had survived centuries of loneliness and suffering, broke apart completely. He clutched Elara's body to his chest and screamed. A sound of such anguish it shattered glass beakers across the laboratory, such rage that the very air seemed to tremble. She'd sacrificed herself, given everything, and he couldn't save her. Unless the prophecy was real, unless willing sacrifice and total consumption actually meant transformation rather than simple death, unless magic was real, and love was powerful enough to break curses that had lasted 400 years. With shaking hands, Lucien reached for the collection bag. Nearly a liter of Elara's blood, given willingly, sacrificed deliberately. "Forgive me," he whispered to her still form. "If this doesn't work, if I'm damning us both, forgive me." He brought the bag to his lips and drank. The blood was different this time. Not just warmer, not just richer. It was power and pain combined. Ecstasy and agony woven together into something that transcended physical sensation. Lucien drank, and with each swallow, he felt something fundamental changing. His cells weren't just stabilizing, they were transforming. The hunger that had clawed at him for 400 years began to quiet, then fade, then disappear entirely. But the prophecy's words echoed in his mind. One will walk in sunlight renewed. One will walk no more. He looked down at Elara's body, pale and still in his arms. No heartbeat, no breath, nothing. The prophecy had demanded willing sacrifice, total consumption. She had given both, and now she was gone. "No," Lucien whispered, setting down the empty blood bag. "No, this can't be right. This can't be how it ends." He pressed his ear to her chest, listening desperately for any sign of life. Nothing. Her skin was cold, Not vampire cold, but death cold. The absence of everything. 400 years of loneliness suddenly seemed preferable to existing in a world without her. But then he felt it. A flutter beneath his palm. So faint he almost missed it. Not her heartbeat. His own. Lucien's hand flew to his chest, pressing hard against his ribs. There. Impossible. Miraculous. Terrifying. His heart was beating, slow and uncertain, like an engine starting after centuries of disuse, but beating. He was alive, truly alive. The transformation was happening exactly as the prophecy promised. His vampire nature was burning away, consumed by Elara's blood, replaced with genuine human physiology. One will walk in sunlight renewed. He was becoming human again. The curse was breaking. But at what cost? Lucien gathered Elara closer, rocking her like a child. "Come back," he pleaded. "Please, Elara, come back to me. I can't do this without you. I don't want to be human if it means losing you." His tears fell on her face, and he realized with shock that they were warm, salt water, not the cold nothing he'd wept for centuries. Human tears for a human loss. The cruelty of it was overwhelming. After 400 years of wanting his mortality back, he finally had it, and it meant nothing without her. "I love you," he whispered against her forehead. "I love you, and I'm sorry I wasn't brave enough to say it sooner. I'm sorry I wasted time being afraid. I'm sorry," Elara gasped. The sound was sharp, violent, air dragging into lungs that had been still. Her back arched, her eyes flying open, but they weren't brown anymore. They were amber, golden, glowing with an inhuman light that Lucien knew intimately because he'd seen it in mirrors for 400 years. "Elara?" His voice shook. She sat up slowly, her movements fluid and graceful in a way they'd never been before. Her hand came to her throat, feeling for a pulse she no longer had. I can't feel my heartbeat." Her voice was different too, clearer, sharper, as if every sound was amplified. "Lucien, what's happening to me?" Understanding crashed over him like ice water. One will walk in sunlight renewed. One will walk no more. The prophecy hadn't demanded her death. It had demanded transformation, exchange, balance. She'd given her humanity to cure him, and in exchange, she'd become what he used to be. "Oh God," Lucien breathed. "Elara, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't understand. I'm cold." She looked at her hands, turning them over in the lamplight. Her skin was paler, taking on that marble-like quality he knew so well. "Why am I so cold?" "Because you're..." He couldn't say it. Couldn't force the word past his lips. But she understood. He watched comprehension dawn in her newly amber eyes. Watched her bring a hand to her mouth and feel the sharp points of fangs that hadn't been there before. "I'm a vampire." She said it with scientific precision, as if cataloging symptoms. "The prophecy, the transformation. I gave my humanity, and you took it. Now I'm so sorry." Lucien's voice broke. "And if I'd known, if I'd understood what the prophecy meant, I never would have drunk your blood. I would have let you die. I would have..." "Stop." Elara's hand caught his, and he noticed that her touch was now ice cold, the same temperature he'd been for 400 years. "You did what I asked you to. What I wanted you to do. This isn't your fault, Lucien." "How can you say that?" "I've cursed you to the same existence I just escaped. You're trapped now in darkness and hunger and I'm alive." She squeezed his hand. "Or undead, I suppose. But I'm here. We're both here. That's what matters." Lucien stared at her, this brilliant woman who'd just been transformed into a creature of nightmare, and she was comforting him, taking responsibility for a sacrifice she couldn't possibly have understood. The hunger, he said urgently. Elara, you need to understand what's coming. The need for blood. It's going to hit you like... I can already feel it. Her other hand came to her stomach, like an emptiness that goes on forever. Like starving and thirsting and freezing all at once. I'll teach you to control it. Everything I learned in 400 years, I'll share with you. You won't have to suffer alone the way I did. 400 years, Elara repeated quietly. That's how long I'll exist like this. Centuries of night and hunger and cold. The reality of what she'd done, what had been done to her, was setting in. Lucien saw it in her face, the slow, dawning horror. We'll find a cure, he said desperately. Now that I'm human, I can continue the research from the other side. I'll dedicate my life to reversing this. I swear to you, Elara, I'll find a way to make you human again. She laughed, a sound edged with hysteria. Ironic, isn't it? We spent a year trying to cure you, and we succeeded, just not the way we planned. I would take it back if I could. I would trade places with you in an instant. I know you would. Elara stood, testing her new body, her new strength. She moved to the window and looked out at the night with eyes that could now see every detail, every shadow. It's beautiful. Everything is so clear, so vivid. I can hear heartbeats in the houses down the street. I can smell blood flowing through veins. It's overwhelming and terrible and fascinating. That's the vampire nature taking hold. You'll learn to filter it, to control the sensory overload. She turned back to him, and the lamplight caught her eyes, making them glow. What happens at dawn, Lucien? You'll feel the pull to darkness. The sun will become painful, then dangerous, then deadly. We'll need to prepare a safe room for you, somewhere light-proof. And you. Her voice softened. What happens to you at dawn? Lucien looked down at his hands. They were warmer than they'd been in centuries, with color returning to the skin. He pressed his fingers to his neck and felt the steady thump of his pulse. I don't know, he admitted. I haven't seen sunlight in 400 years. I don't know if I'll burn or if the transformation is complete. I don't know what being human again actually means. Then, we'll find out together. Elara crossed back to him, moving with the supernatural grace he'd once possessed. We have a few hours until dawn. Teach me what I need to know. How to manage the hunger, how to hide what I am, how to survive in this new existence. So he did. Through the remaining hours of darkness, Lucien taught Elara everything he'd learned across centuries. How to slow her breathing to appear human, how to warm her skin through friction, how to resist the call of nearby heartbeats. She was a quick study, approaching vampirism with the same scientific curiosity she'd brought to curing it. She asked questions, took mental notes, tested her new abilities with methodical precision. And the strength is extraordinary, she said, lifting a heavy laboratory table with one hand. And the speed. I can move faster than I can process. It's like my body outpaces my thoughts. You'll learn to control it. Within a few weeks, it'll feel natural. And the hunger? Does that become natural too? Lucien's expression darkened. No, that never feels natural. You learn to manage it, to minimize the suffering you cause, but you never stop hating it. As dawn approached, they prepared a windowless storage room in the basement, padding it with blankets, ensuring no light could penetrate. Elara would be safe there through the daylight hours, but neither of them knew what would happen to Lucien. Maybe you should stay in the dark room with me, Elara suggested, as the sky began to lighten outside. Just to be safe. We don't know if the transformation is complete. I need to know. Lucien moved to the eastern window, the curtains still drawn. And I need to know if I'm truly human again or if this is some cruel trick. And if you burn, then you'll know to stay away from sunlight. He tried to smile. See? Scientific method, hypothesis, experiment, observation. That's not funny. I'm terrified, he admitted. 400 years I've dreamed of this moment, of seeing the sun again. And now that it's here, I'm afraid it'll kill me. Or worse, that it won't. That I'll stand in the light and realize being human again doesn't fix anything, doesn't make me whole, doesn't erase what I've done and what I've been. Elara took his hand, her cold hand in his, warming one. Whatever happens, we face it together. That's what you said to me once. I'm saying it back to you now. The first rays of sunlight touched the horizon. Lucien moved to the window and pulled back the curtain just slightly. A beam of golden light fell across the floor, stopping inches from his feet. He'd lived 400 years in darkness. 400 years of avoiding this light, of hiding from it, of being burned by it. 400 years of night and shadow and cold. Now, he had a choice. Step into the light and discover if the transformation was real, or step back into darkness and never know. Whatever happens, Elara said from behind him, I love you, human or vampire or something in between. I love you. I love you too, Lucien replied. And I'm sorry for all of it. For bringing you into this world, for cursing you, for giving me the most extraordinary year of my life, for showing me love that transcends species and mortality, for letting me be part of something impossible. She moved to stand beside him. Don't apologize for that, Lucien. Never apologize for that. He took a deep breath and realized with wonder that he needed to breathe, that his lungs demanded air, that his heart required oxygen, that he was fundamentally, miraculously alive. Here we go, he whispered, and stepped into the sunlight. For one terrible second, he waited for the burning. For the agony he'd felt every time he'd tested his limits over the centuries, for the smell of his own flesh charring, for the pain that would drive him back into shadow. It didn't come. Instead, he felt warmth. Genuine, beautiful, life-giving warmth spreading across his skin. The sunlight touched his face, his hands, his chest, and it didn't burn. It didn't hurt. It felt like coming home. Lucien laughed, the sound choked with tears. He moved fully into the window, letting the light wash over him completely. After 400 years of darkness, he was standing in the dawn, and he was alive. It worked, he breathed. Elara, it actually worked. I'm human. He turned to share his joy with her and stopped. Elara stood at the very edge of the shadow, her face yearning toward the light she could no longer touch. Her amber eyes tracked the sunbeams with hunger and loss. She'd given him this, given him the sun and warmth and humanity and life. And in exchange, she'd been exiled to the darkness he'd just escaped. The cruelty of it stole his breath. He was free, and she was imprisoned. He could walk in daylight, and she would burn. He had been saved, and she had been damned, all because she'd loved him enough to sacrifice everything. Lucien moved back into the shadow and took her cold hands in his warm ones. I'm going to fix this. I swear to you, Elara. I'm going to dedicate every day of my human life to finding a way to make you human again. You won't suffer this existence for 400 years. I won't allow it. And if you can't, if the cure only works one way, if the transformation is permanent, then I'll be here, every night, for as long as it takes. You won't face this alone. Elara looked up at him, this man who'd been a vampire for 400 years, and was now gloriously, impossibly human. She saw in his face the same determination that had driven her research, the same stubborn refusal to accept defeat. We really are ridiculous, she said softly. Spending eternity trying to cure each other. Sounds romantic when you put it that way. Sounds insane. That too. The sun was fully risen now, flooding the laboratory with golden light that Elara could no longer safely approach. She needed to retreat to the darkened room, to hide from the day, to begin her own journey into the existence Lucien had just escaped. But before she went, she pulled him close and kissed him. His lips were warm now, his body temperature human. The cold kiss she'd grown accustomed to was gone, replaced with living heat. It was wonderful and heartbreaking at once. "Go," she whispered against his mouth. "Go stand in the sunlight, feel it for both of us. And tonight, when I wake, tell me what it was like. Every detail. Promise me." "I promise." She descended into the basement, into the windowless room that would be her sanctuary. Lucien secured the door, ensuring no light could penetrate, then stood in the laboratory alone. The woman he loved was a vampire now because of him. She'd sacrificed her humanity to save his, and now she would suffer the same curse he'd endured for 400 years. Unless he could cure her, unless science could triumph one more time, unless love could find another way to break another curse. Lucien moved to the window and looked out at Edinburgh bathed in morning light. The world was waking up, people emerging from their homes, vendors setting up market stalls, children running through streets. A world he could finally join again. He pressed his palm against the glass, feeling its warmth, feeling the sun's heat against his skin without pain for the first time since 1501. "Moin, I'll save you," he said to the darkness below, where Elara slept her first daylight sleep as a vampire. "However long it takes, whatever it costs, I'll find a way to save you. That's my promise, my vow, my purpose for this human life you've given me." And somewhere in the darkness, in the space between sleep and waking, Elara heard him. She'd given him the sun. And someday, through his love, through their combined determination, through the power of the bond that had connected them across centuries and species, he would give it back to her. They would save each other, again and again, for as long as it took, because that's what love meant. Not possession or consumption or sacrifice, but choosing each other, every day, in darkness and in light, in life and in death and in everything between. And if 400 years of suffering had taught them anything, it was that love, real, true, impossible love, was worth any cost. 5 years passed. Lucien worked tirelessly, applying everything he'd learned from both sides of the curse. He built laboratories, hired assistants who knew nothing of the true purpose of the research, published papers on blood diseases that brought him recognition as one of Europe's leading hematologists. And every night, he came home to Elara. She'd learned to navigate her new existence with grace. The hunger never disappeared, but she managed it through careful feeding from willing donors who believed they were participating in medical trials. She continued her own research, approaching vampirism from the inside as Lucien approached it from without. They made progress, slow, frustrating, but real. And then, one autumn evening, Lucien discovered it. Not a complete cure, but something almost as good. A synthesized compound derived from his transformed blood that could grant Elara 2 hours of sunlight tolerance. 2 hours where she could walk in daylight without burning, where she could feel the sun's warmth, where she could remember what it meant to be human. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't permanent, but it was hope. The first time Elara stood in sunlight again, 5 years after her transformation, she wept. Lucien held her in the garden of their Edinburgh home, both of them standing in the afternoon sun, and she cried tears of joy and relief and wonder. "It's beautiful," she whispered, face tilted to the sky. I'd forgotten how beautiful it was. "We'll make it permanent," Lucien promised. "This is just the beginning. I know. But for now, for these 2 hours, I have everything I need." She kissed him in the sunlight. Warm lips, meeting warm lips, both of them alive in their own ways. They would continue searching for the complete cure, would spend decades, perhaps centuries, working toward the day when Elara could be fully human again. But in this moment, standing together in the autumn sun, they had something more important than cures or transformations or scientific breakthroughs. They had love that had survived impossible odds. They had each other. And that, for now and always, was enough. What would you have chosen? Eternal life as a vampire beside the one you love, or mortality with the constant search for a cure? Tell me in the comments below. If this story moved you, please subscribe to the Mythic Hearts for more tales of impossible love between humans and mythical creatures. Every week, we bring you new epic romances that will break your heart and put it back together. Don't forget to hit that like button. It helps us reach more hearts yearning for stories like this. Until our next tale, may you find love that transcends all boundaries. Thank you for listening.